Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Musica Sacra project. It is with, praise God, great joy that we will continue the interview series this year. But before we go into that flow of the interviews each month, I thought it would be really nice to share some reflections or thoughts as we enter Lent, because there's such richness to this season. And it would be nice just to do this kind of short, long-form video and talk about some of the ideas that I have. Before I get into it, please do consider donating this Lent, because it's really going to help with the interviews and with the little projects that we can do. Unfortunately, even though there's so many well wishes, we really do need some funding to continue the project in this simple but comfortable setup, and so I'd greatly appreciate it. But anyway, to continue on, I think that Lent, as a musician, as a singer, has inarguably the best polyphonic music available. There's much in the world, but I really do think Lent has this richness to the music that is available to us. And I think in part is because of the suppression of the organ and instrumentation, and it allowed composers then to maybe have more imagination, more scope and creativity with the vocal compositions that they did. And in particular to a liturgy or service, we could say, Tenebrae, which is coming back now after the Preconciliar Council in some places, but in other places it's still not heard of. And I would really like to highlight Tenebrae, the beauty of it, and for those who may not know about it, to just explain a little bit. And of course, there's a lot available online, so you can start reading about the structures and things of Tenebrae. But the Tenebrae service is essentially when they would put together, amalgamate Lauds and Matins, the liturgy of the hours. And it was very originally during the night. And so they would be singing or praying the liturgy of the hours during the night of Holy Week. It then also got transferred to the afternoon before, so around 4 p.m. They were doing it during Holy Week, and it's a very long liturgy, so it can be from the original is like 1.5 hours or 2.5 hours, depending what you sang and what you did. So I can see why you may not want to do it during the middle of the night, true sacrifice, but it was then done to the afternoon before. So what would be Holy Thursday was done Wednesday, what was Good Friday was done Thursday, Holy Saturday, Friday. It then, I think, definitely died out last century and maybe before, but it's beautiful to see a resurgence of it, maybe, not in this long form that we have originally had through history, but to have a taste of that. And I think it really brings a beautiful structure to Holy Week. It's a great reminder. So to explain the service a little bit is that it's in darkness. You have 15 candles sitting on what they call a hearse, which is like a beautiful triangular candelabra, you could say. And the 15 candles represented the apostles, the 3 women with Jesus, and Jesus. And then what happens throughout the service, there are the antiphons, the psalms, the readings, the responsories, and the candles are extinguished one by one throughout the service. And then the final candle of Jesus is then hidden. They don't blow it out or extinguish it. They try to hide it. And that is like Christ kind of being removed from us in that painful Holy Week. There's some beautiful reflections about this idea that it is like the apostles falling asleep in the Garden of Gethsemane, and each one falling asleep as Jesus went off to pray. There's also that concept of Christ is the light of the world, and that light was removed, during his crucifixion. There's these beautiful ideas to go with some of the standard liturgical hours, and to do this in the evening in this contemplative Holy Week is quite effective to our spiritual lives. And then to put into context, why am I talking about Tenebrae, is because the compositions that were inspired by this liturgy is just inspirational. Our great polyphonic composers of the Renaissance era really, really did lean into the texts, the responsories and the antiphons, and really, I think, created some of the masterpieces of Catholic sacred music. Initially, I'd like to mention Thomas Tallis with the Lamentations of Jeremiah. This is a beautiful piece of work. There was also people like Gesualdo, who was writing the responsories. We have Orlando de Lasso. He wrote the Lamentations and responsories. We've got Allegri's Miserere, because they recite the Miserere at the end of Tenebrae. And so we have this iconic piece of music. And I'm not sure if people are aware it comes from this service of Tenebrae. Also, of course, Palestrina. And also, I really want to highlight is Thomas Luis de Victoria, a Spanish composer. Many people may know of him. But he wrote the mammoth work. It was like 32 or 34 compositions. I'm not remembering. For the entire week, the Officium Hebdomadae Sanctae, that is the office of the Holy Week. So he was one of the few that wrote everything that could be written for the voice. We have the responsories, and we have the Lamentations, and he wrote for everything. And I just think that as sacred musicians, we're either performing this, or for people, this audience who are great appreciators of sacred music, that we can use this to pray and to listen to, maybe while we're driving, maybe reading the Bible this Lent, saying our rosary, like a contemplative rosary. We could listen to this music. And by all means, if you are singing this music and you record it, please post it and tag it. And I would love to share parts of this music to the wider community. So for me, I thought it would be beautiful to highlight that we don't just have to perform it, we can really pray with this music, and that it is a true treasure trove of Catholic sacred music. And it truly is ours. And it saddens me to see the hearses, the candelabras throughout Europe not being used for this great service. And finally, I forgot to mention the strepitus at the end of Tenebrae, the loud bang or clap or whatever the parish can manage to do. And that is the symbol of the temple breaking in two. So it leaves people in this state of waiting and a bit of emptiness and a bit of shock. It truly is like that earthquake. And the composers had all of this material to work with. So I love that, and I really wanted to highlight Tenebrae. That it's a very, I would say, dense structure. So you can go onto Wikipedia, that they've actually written out the beautiful structure, so you can see how it's done over the 3 days. And yeah, maybe just get more versed in the structure, the preconciliar structure. Now in the current time, we have variations of Tenebrae, and I think that's more manageable for parishes. I can understand the full experience is too much, but that doesn't mean we can't use some of the music that has been sung and used before us. So even if we're just using some of the responsories, some of the a lamentation or something, we don't need to do all or nothing. We can find a sweet balance. This leads me to the concept of why is the organ subdued in Lent? So why the composers wrote all this amazing Lenten music, there's no organ or instruments to support them. And then why? What is this? And in the Church's wisdom. So to tell you where this comes from, and so you can reference it, the general instruction of the Roman Missal, number 313, says, I've got it quoted here for you, so I'm not paraphrasing. In Lent, the playing of the organ and musical instruments is allowed only to support the singing. Exceptions are Laetare Sunday, fourth Sunday of Lent, solemnities and feasts. So we have sort of this quietness the Church is asking of us, just support the singing. We need less. And then that leads us as sacred musicians to question why less. And I think we need the emptiness. We need the emptiness to dig deep, and we need to provide to our parish in a musical way that sense of Christ going into the desert. So he was there for 40 days, and we need to somehow represent that as we are fasting, praying, and almsgiving, that we are in the desert also. So my term for this is digging deep. We are asking to dig deep through silence or through less, because when there's less distraction, we start self-reflection. And so this is beautiful. In such a musical way, we can make so much beauty and so much conversion of heart through this suppression of instrumentation, because the emotions also are suppressed. Even the voice, they don't say in the Church to suppress the voice, but we can present a different frame of mind in our vocal textures, our vocal approach during Lent to help people pray better in a Lenten seasonal way. So we want to lead them to prayer, to reflection, to conversion, and to silence. And if our music is not doing that, we're not quite doing our job in this season. And it's the same in Advent. So that's something people kind of forget. Advent is meant to be less as well, so we can prepare for the great celebration that is to come, which is Easter or Christmas. So I really, really encourage people, whether you are the musician or you are the person attending your parish that loves music, to see, maybe to notice this, to feel this, and to embrace this kind of emptiness and desert-like experience that the Church is asking us to do. And that then leads me to my final kind of third point that I really wanted to highlight was silence, and more so the fear of silence. In our world, it's talked about very often, I think, now in the Church. We are so scared of silence. We are so scared of being alone with ourselves, confronting our own internal being, our soul, our conscience. And there is so much fear, and I feel it in the liturgies. It's unfortunate sometimes there's not a moment of silence, because everyone fears everyone to feel awkward, to feel empty, to feel not entertained. I hate the word entertained. And it's always about filling the gap and making sure it flows. And we can actually let it be sparse. This sparsity is so important. We can let it be awkward. We can let it feel empty, because through that, people can contemplate, why is it so quiet? Oh, I'm meant to pray. We need to lead them to prayer. And it's quite funny to be talking about, when I'm meant to promote music, that I'm asking you, please, can we have silence? I'm promoting less of my work. But really, all of my work is to lead us to prayer and silence, an internal silence. And that's so critical. So I encourage people to kind of embrace the awkward, embrace the emptiness. And I would like to highlight 1 Kings chapter 19, where Elijah hears God in the gentle breeze, or the whisper, whatever the translation is, and that we can't do it while the noise continues, and we can't convert hearts if there is too much going on. So really, our music is to lead people to prayer and to contemplation, to examination of themselves, betterment of themselves, so that they can be better for God and for others around them. And that leads to deeper community. So in all of that, I think each point, I hope, leads on to the next, and explaining, well, firstly, we have great vocal work in the church, this beautiful music that aligns us to the season. And then we question, well, we have no organ. That's why this music has come about. And then the organ is to be suppressed. So why is it to be suppressed? Because we need more silence. And then to really embrace, or let it be silent. Let us have that space. And that could mean more Gregorian chant that then fades into, during the communion or offertory, obviously during the ordinary of the Mass as well, this sort of simplicity. And there's not, more doesn't mean more beautiful. I do truly think that, as a soloist singer and someone who loves a huge variety of music, I'm coming more and more to the concept that simplicity does truly kind of rule, in the sense that most people do love it if it's done beautifully, and that we can do really great things through simplicity, and quality and simplicity. And I think that helps any parish then to take on the challenge of great sacred music. And I always say to start small. So I hope maybe Lent is actually this time where you could try something simple and make it better and better. And to see where we can lead our parishes or our personal prayer life, if you can't be so involved in your parish, etc., where we can lead ourselves this Lent through music, through the silence that great sacred music creates, and then to see if we can embrace that in our parishes also. So I truly hope you have an incredible, holy, blessed, fruitful Lent. It can be a challenge. It can go really fast for some people. But I hope that we can all have kind of individual conversions and then bring that together as one holy Catholic Apostolic Church. And I can't wait to share the first official interview with you for 2026. God bless.